Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Bob Beckel, Eric Bowling, and she plays tennis against the curb. Dana Perino, the 5. They all tend to blend. I know. At a dinner with the press, the ambassador from Afghanistan was asked about Donald Trump. He said he was warned to keep it short when talking to Mr. Trump because of his short attention span. But when they did finally speak, he was delightfully shocked. Donald Trump asked 3 questions that President Obama never did. 1, how can you win in this fight against terror? 2, what do you need to become financially independent? And 3, how can American business invest in your country? The ambassador's conclusion? Donald Trump wanted to win, whereas before, President Obama just didn't want to lose. The hesitancy over commitment was gone, but also Trump happened to listen to his answers. Funny how this flies in the face of the media's portrayal of Trump. He's always ballistic and incurious. And President Obama, he's just so much more giving, so much so he looks fantastic even when he's losing his shirt. Meanwhile, Trump's going full salesman as he fixes Obamacare, meeting with congressional leaders, working his phone, holding listening sessions, lunching with old rivals. It's in his blood, sales, which is good. Trump has something to sell that is way more complex than a lie about keeping your doctor. What a contrast. Trump is feisty but flexible. Obama, cool but rigid. But he had no reason to bend. The media already bought into his shtick. His giddy fan base ate up every white-coated lie. Obamacare was a lemon, but the media were his lemon heads. So in a surprising turnabout, it's Trump who's listening and critics who refuse to hear. The press won't notice, but somehow the economy has. Guess which one you should care about? So, Eric, this article is in the Independent Journalism Review.
Love those guys.
Yeah, it's very good. Benny Johnson,
Alex and the crew, good people.
He was at this dinner, and I think it offers a very rare, unique insight to the people that we are claiming to help. You know, the Afghans.
I love the fact that you point out the 3 questions that President Trump asked were all business related. And this is the thing that, you know, throughout the whole primary, the whole election season, give the businessman a chance because maybe doing things a little differently in D.C. might work. He asked about what do you need to win, number 1. Number 2, what do you need to be financially independent? And how can businesses invest in your country? Those are 3 important questions that they've, forget Obama, maybe they've never heard those questions before. It's doing foreign policy a little bit differently, and clearly it resonated. Yeah. Dana, do you think that the ambassador said those things because of the new guy, or did he really mean it? I think he meant it.
I don't think they'd have any, it seems to me they wouldn't have any incentive to say it if it wasn't true and if they didn't believe it. And I also think that, while the business aspect is interesting, I believe that President Trump is asking those questions because it's in America's national interest for Afghanistan to be successful. So for them to have a good and growing economy means that they are less likely to become a safe haven for terrorism again. And then the question becomes then, what does success look like to you? And you can't have success militarily if you don't also have the soft power that comes from diplomacy and a strong and growing economy. I do think it will be interesting to see if President Trump will accept a recommendation from the Pentagon for more troops, because I do think that that request is probably coming, and I think there's good reason for them to consider it and probably do it.
Kimberly, you look fantastic in white today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. It's interesting.
What am I, chopped liver?
You look great in red, but, you know, okay, and everybody looks good. All right, Kimberly.
Bob?
I find it interesting that the most abrasive president is the one who relies on personal tact, you know, which comes from, I guess, from real estate deals. You know, he has to get in front of the person and then work it out, whereas Obama was like, I already know the answers, so I don't need to talk to you.
Well, it's really true because he has sort of that professorial elitism that he does think that he knows better than everyone else. And that was one of the criticisms during his presidency, that he was lecturing to the American people, I know better, you do not, you're impulsive and petulant, and I'm going to show you the way. And part of this you saw was the way he handled Afghanistan and other areas, geopolitical areas that we came into conflict with. With Afghanistan, his plan was just to withdraw. When he saw that that was not going to be, you know, a good idea and there was problems there that were ongoing, what did we see him do? He essentially punted to the next presidency and said, I'm going to let them handle this. He made the most restrictive rules of engagement that cost American lives. 3 out of 4 of the lives lost in Afghanistan were under Barack Obama's presidency. That is a fact. So when you see, it is, Bob, sorry.
That's what the war was. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, the point is now President Trump is going to have to go in there and fix this. And one of the first things he did was what he did was he turned the rules of engagement back to what they were before, which if you ask anybody who's involved in the theater there, militarily, special ops forces, that was the thing that hurt them the most. Yes, not having the resources, but being so restrictive that they weren't able to take the fight to the Taliban to begin with, which now led to this abysmal failure that we're seeing in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. Bob, here's an easy question. Has President Obama ever admitted once that he was wrong about anything? Trump seems to be more willing to change his mind. Obama, however...
That's for sure.
Yeah.
We agree on that.
Yeah, I think we do.
Let me just... I'm going to try to do this in the nicest way possible, but usually when people don't know anything, they ask a lot of questions. Now, the Afghanistan...
Oh, my God.
Can I
push back right there?
Yes, you can push back. You interrupt. I always get the last question. I got to listen to your book.
Don't know anything. They never ask the question. Otherwise, they would know things.
No, listen, do you think he knows anything about Afghanistan? Seriously.
I don't know if he does, but I think it's amazing and perfect that he asked.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's fine. No.
Look, it's important to know what you don't know.
No, I understand that. But when it is important to ask these questions, I understand that. But the idea that somehow we're giving him credit for being some sort of diplomacy on his part. If you ask him about the health care bill when he stood up there, he wouldn't know a thing about it. Afghanistan has a very complicated history. It's driven down to the biggest powers in the world. And it's not going to get fixed. It's not going to get fixed by us. And we're going to, like the British left the Khyber Pass and the Soviets went back home, we're going to go home.
So he, David points out.
That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Let me know when you're done.
Shit. Go ahead.
Well, let me know when you're done. Are you done?
Of course.
Well, Bob, you still didn't answer my question.
Yeah. What? When did you say he was wrong?
Has Obama ever admitted he was wrong about anything, including ISIS?
Yeah, I think it was pain in the side of his house in Chicago. No, he's most of the time he wasn't wrong.
Okay.
So can I address what Dana had pointed out? That will President Trump listen to the generals and send ground troops to Afghanistan if needed?
I said more troops. It doesn't necessarily mean ground forces.
More troops. But we found out today that they did send, the generals did recommend sending troops to Syria. And he went with it. And this is something he said he wasn't in favor of, but he's listening to the generals. So, Bob, it is important to listen. If you don't exactly have a complete, fully understanding of what's going on the ground in Syria in every foreign theater, it's good to hear and listen to your generals.
I think we're saying the same thing. He doesn't know what he's doing, and so he asks the right people.
We didn't say that. The point is, smart people...
You think he knows something about Syria?
Well, I'm telling you that he wants to succeed. If you know anything about Donald Trump and you know him personally for many years, like I do and many people do that have had interactions with him in the business environment, he is going to equip himself with the facts to be able to succeed. He's not going to go into the presidency to then say, oh, sorry, I didn't do a very good job and fire himself. He's going to try to get it right. And if you see, he's relying heavily on the advice of generals and people in his cabinet because he wants that type of strength and intelligence and previous success from people who actually know what they're doing so he can incorporate that into his foreign policy plan. And following up by asking questions so that he can learn, so that he can make good decisions. That's what a president should do.
Just out of curiosity, what do you think he was talking about how do you do business in Afghanistan? I mean, if I were the president of Afghanistan and he said that to me, I'd say...
Every president, every foreign leader should be asking that question. Yeah. How can we get business investment to come to our country? Because when you have that, you have growth. And when you have growth, you basically solve all your economic problems. And it also bails you out. What?
What are you going to do in Afghanistan?
Mining?
Mining, that's right.
Yeah, but by the way,
agriculture.
You want them to have a good economy to stabilize the region. That is a very important piece of the puzzle that a lot of times people don't think about. When you see the kind of strife that's happening with people like ISIS and the rest of them, it's because they say, oh, they don't have jobs. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. You liberals are the ones who said that half the reason for terrorism and ISIS, the upstart and growth in ISIS was economic reasons. So here he is. He says what it's going to take to bring business investment to Afghanistan so that these people have an option, an alternative to joining an ISIS. They can go start a business.
A Trump hotel in Afghanistan.
Exactly right. Or maybe a casino that'll stay open more than 6 months. You're assuming then that George Bush and Barack Obama didn't encourage businessmen to go to Afghanistan?
Did I say that? Did I once say that? Did I once say that?
No,
Greg
pointed
out the guy from Afghanistan.
Never heard it before.
Said, no one ever asked me that question before.
The other thing he brought up,
how long has he been in office?
The other thing he brought up, though, was that it was something we've talked about, that President Obama would often say what he would do before he would do it, and that would drive Afghans crazy.
He said there was he said that we are leaving, and so that basically created this vacuum, and it was a problem. But the other thing is, President Trump has shown some willingness, and the media has picked up on it, to change his viewpoint based on meetings that he's had. So leading up to that joint session of Congress speech, he had 2 weeks worth of meetings with CEOs. And remember, on that day of the joint session speech, he said, well, they confirmed, floated the idea that maybe he was going to change his stand, or not his approach on the immigration bill. And Bob, that is true that he did do that. And presidents are allowed to change their mind. President Obama, remember, after the pushback, he kept the Bush tax cuts. I mean, it goes to it. If I could just add one last thing about the ambassador. One of the ways that you develop good relationships is by showing an interest in somebody else, like maybe ask them.
Absolutely.
Ask their opinion about something. It doesn't happen all the time, frankly. For a lot of people. So I think that is, from his business perspective, that is a way that you can establish a relationship. They'll probably be able to pick up the phone, call each other all the time, and that is actually good.
And that helps with your soft diplomacy that you were talking about. Say we have a good relationship, pick up the phone.
Soft power.
No, it's fine. Maybe Trump can do something that every major power hasn't been able to do in 300 years in Afghanistan. I doubt it.
No,
Unless he grows opium.
I get Bob's point. Nothing seems to work in Afghanistan, but at least it looks like he's listening.
But also remember, the purpose of it is not just because he wants Afghanistan to have a good economy. It's actually in America's national interest. So that you can prevent a safe haven from growing there again.
All right. On that note, coming up, top Democrats in the House and Senate are urging Republicans to scrap their Obamacare repeal and replacement bill. But will their fear tactics work? Details ahead.
In an effort to derail President Trump's pledge to repeal and replace Obamacare, some Democrats have apparently resorted to scare tactics on the American people to spook them about the Republican health care bill.
If this legislation is passed, millions of people are thrown off of health insurance, not able to get to a doctor when they must. Thousands of Americans will die.
In terms of insurance coverage, it's immoral. In terms of giving money to the rich at the expense of working families, it is indecent and wrong.
Trump care would be a nightmare for the American people, causing tens of millions to lose coverage, millions more to see the costs of health care go way up.
Meanwhile, the White House announced it's working with lawmakers to shape an amendment to Ryan Care, the GOP health care bill. And I still say the GOP has two options. Jam this lousy bill through now and watch it fail at phase 2. Then you own it, Mr. Speaker, or fix it fully right now. Then if Democrats vote it down, they're going to eat the mess that the failed Obamacare wake will leave, and it will leave a mess. Who likes it? KG, your thoughts on first of all, the White House said they're going to work with some Republicans to see if they can add amendments to the bill now.
Yeah, but I think that's a reasonable reaction to sort of some of the, I guess, evaluation of it, the people who are studying the bill and saying, okay, wait a second, does this have all sort of the ingredients in it that we need to make it successful? So that's what you do. That shows a healthy interest in doing your best and putting forward policy that's actually going to help the American people. If they were being closed-minded and saying, we're not open to anything, that would be a problem. So take that, don't just say you're going to do it, and in fact incorporate it to make it the best that it can be, because they were very vocal in terms of criticizing Obamacare to begin with. So give people a reason to choose this and want it, not just like take the medicine castor oil with the grimace on their face.
Dana, is there a way for Republicans to win with this bill?
Well, I guess, sure. I mean, I think that the president has said that they are inextricably linked. This is our bill, is what he said, and I appreciate that you're trying to call it Ryan Care, or that, however, not just you, but there are attempts to brand it as Ryan Care, Obamacare. The Republicans had to put something on the table, and I thought today Sean Spicer at their press briefing was very much in line of what you would want in terms of the beginning of a negotiation, which is, this is phase 1. We're willing to talk to people. I'm meeting with people. He's talking to people. President Trump has 2 rallies next week, of which I'm assuming that this is going to be a really big piece. And I do think that somebody like Senator Sanders is being so ridiculous. When he says thousands of people will die, having health insurance doesn't mean less care, whether you have it or not. People get care if they don't have health insurance. You can get it under Medicaid. Might not be the best care, might not be the one that you want, but it's not that people are going to die if this bill passes. That's ridiculous.
But it's just, again, my biggest problem with the bill is they want us to wait for phase 2 and phase 3 for the things
That's what the president said.
I know, but here's the problem. If you don't get 60 votes and you're putting the easy stuff up front so you have a simple majority to get it through, and you're never going to get 60 votes for phase 2 or phase 3. We're never going to get the promises made down the road. This is why I'm saying let the Democrats eat this. Let them own this thing.
But just to Sanders, anytime you try to reform government, the left shouts 3 words: people will die. While in cities actually run by liberals, people do die. I mean, if you look at,
that's how we're conservatives.
But liberal in most cities where there's high crime, liberal policies kill more people than conservative principles ever will. So I find it very hypocritical that they're shouting about hypothetical death while there's death in Chicago every day.
Okay, that's a very good point.
Thank you. I like that point.
Let me just get this point. I sat around this table for 4 years and listened about death panels, where you're high intellectually. A queen from Alaska who sat there and said, death panels, because the Democrats, you're going to die. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
But that she was
talking
right.
about a bunch of hypocrites. You guys would say stuff about Obama that was much more scary than this. And the people on the Hill did, and they were stupid, and they couldn't do it right. You guys can do it right.
Bob, what about that idea? What about
There's a compliment in there somewhere.
I think he complimented us.
Put phase 1, 2, and 3 all together and say, this is the bill. Democrats either vote for it or Obamacare is going to be yours to eat.
Yeah, but you and I both know this gets down to a couple of fundamental questions, which legislatively are not that well negotiated. It's Medicaid expansion, and that's how they're going to be.
Here's my point. Let the Democrats eat this. Let them vote down.
But the president's already said that would be the irresponsible thing to do. He said I could do that. It'd be politically expedient, but I wouldn't do that. So I don't think it's easy for him then now to backtrack on that.
But Paul Ryan and the whip, they also said they were going to be able to deliver a bill that was able to pass the House, and they didn't. I mean, there is an issue.
There hasn't been a vote yet.
The problem is I just don't see how you could put together something and negotiate a deal where their positions are. And Medicaid is a central part of it.
You know what the thing is? We're talking about health coverage.
Yeah.
And nothing in these bills. They really need to tackle health costs. You get the health costs to come down, the coverage has got to come down.
This is an insurance bill, basically.
It is. All right, KG, last thought.
Bob, just so you know, for your team here, Bernie Sanders is really working his best magic to try to split the Democratic Party and make a new faction awaiting the Democratic Socialist Party.
Jeez, we missed that.
Well, I'm just telling you.
I think unfortunately for the Democrats, Sanders has been successful.
He has been successful, and the election is proof positive of that, because a lot of the people that actually supported him as well we're enjoying and embracing the policies of Donald Trump and wanting that kind of reform.
We've had that split since
your party is in even worse shape than before.
We've had that split since 1870. I was there for that convention. I'm telling you.
A powerful nor'easter is pummeling much of the country, dumping more than a foot of snow, sleet, and freezing rain in some places. Major cities along the East Coast, from Washington to Boston, have gotten clobbered. 6 states have declared a state of emergency. Shepard Smith joins us with the latest on the winter weather. Shep, it sort of felt today like when you were walking, like ice pellets being shot into your face with a BB gun.
Right, like on a boat that's going too fast in the rain.
Yeah.
Very, very uncomfortable. Forecasters predicted a blizzard today, and that is exactly what we got. But it hit farther inland than they expected. So New York City, D.C., Philly really dodged the worst of it. Other areas to the north and west got nearly 2 feet of snow, even more in isolated spots. Here's a look in Boston. The snow becoming more of a wintry mix there now, and forecasters say it will most likely turn to rain there very soon. Looks like it may already have. Utility companies reporting the storm has knocked out power to nearly 250,000 people from Virginia to Massachusetts, so they're doing a good job getting a lot of it back up. For instance, this area here, Medford, Massachusetts, at one point, more than 90% of all customers were without power, now down to 4 customers. They've done a whale of a job. And there were some other problems associated with this huge system, actually 2 systems that converged over the Northeast at the same time. New Jersey, this is coming out of one of the coastal towns, the Stone Harbor, New Jersey, about 150 miles south of New York City, right on the southern tip of Jersey. Water taking over the streets there and people wandering around in boats today. We're starting to get some snow totals as well, and it looks like D.C. is going to finish up with just a couple of inches. Parts of the New Jersey shore with about half a foot. New York City about 8 inches, we now think, when all is done. A little less in Central Park, a little less down in around JFK Airport. A little more in Boston, though, but to the west of Boston, Worcester, Mass., for instance, about 1.5 feet. West of New York, same thing, 18 inches as we go far west in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I want to show you the current radar loop. This thing has just come right up the coast. These are the snow totals that we're expecting from now until it's all over. Less than an inch here, less than an inch in Boston, but look up there in Burlington, another 10 to 16 inches to come. That would put them around 30 inches. So don't tell anybody in Burlington this wasn't a big storm. That's what's left of this. Less than an inch here, still 4 to 8 in the Albany area. Forecasters say the storm could drop more and more than a foot in Burlington, Vermont. I want to show you here for travelers, it's been a nightmare. More than 6,000 flights have been grounded. This is at Dulles in Washington. A white wintry mess this morning. Things starting to get back to normal at Dulles International just outside of D.C. Slowly up and running at New York City airports, but the delays could really ripple for days. There was some fun, though. Case in point, Pennsylvania, this woman, not a brand new woman, snowboarding down a hill in her backyard. She apparently made some nice work. Yeah, indeed. She made about 65 miles north and west of Philly there. Unless I forget, Dana, America's dog makes a cameo. We happened to spot Jasper. Apparently, she was in Central Park today. Was she there? Was she there unattended, or did you go with her?
She is a he.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. I got to get you a calendar, and then it'll be very clear that
I have
it's
my
a
own
he.
Lucia, and she is a she.
Just ask Kimberly.
Yeah.
She knows he's a he.
Hey, Jasper.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
The dogs were having a good time. Kimberly and I have a secret thing.
I get Jasper's
We're gonna take it around
gender
the
picture every morning.
Yes, we're going to take it around the table and ask some
think
questions
that's
to you.
illegal.
We'll start with Kimberly.
And Lucia is so super cute. Oh my God, she's adorable, right?
To me.
So let's talk about the cherry blooms. Apparently they're encased in ice, and it's a big problem for the festival going forward because I don't think they're going to survive this.
Yeah, they think they may not, some of them, because so many of the cherry blossoms in D.C. had bloomed early.
Yeah.
So they had the little blooms that were open, and the ones that are already open, if they're iced over, those most likely fall off. But they're still telling us there'll be plenty of cherry blossom for people to come to see. So if you're planning,
that affects the tourism.
Yeah, it does affect tourism, but it's a good thing because they all stay home. That's my hometown, and the Japanese got even with us for Hiroshima. They put those things around there, and everybody stops. And traffic accidents, they all ought to go home. Hey, Shep, let me ask you an important question here.
Oh my God!
Do you think that you think if we had better microwave situation up and down the coast, we'd have better weather control?
we could see it through the microwave cameras.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's so.
So
Great
Shep,
question, Bob.
I have a question for you. Shep, how's the weather in Palm Beach, Florida right now?
Delicious.
Right
It was
Mar-a-Lago.
72 earlier this afternoon. Today they had a high about 84 in the Palm Beaches, and I had a live camera in Palm Beach earlier. I would have dialed that up for you, Eric, if I had known you were interested.
All right, brother.
Shep, I have a question. What do you say to people who are then critical because the storm shifted and didn't hit D.C. and Philly and New York as they thought? Then there's criticism of the National Weather Service, which I don't think is warranted. But I guess I just told you what I think. What do you think?
I don't think so at all. You can't tell exactly where weather's going to go. We always talk about hurricanes. If they take just a little bit of a trek, well, they were originally predicting that this would be 50 miles off coast. If it had been 50 miles off coast, the warm water from the Atlantic wouldn't have come into Boston and New York and Philadelphia. It would have been in the mid-20s instead of the low 30s. So all of this freezing rain we got all day would have been snow. So we'd have had 2 inches in Boston, 2 inches in New York, 2 feet in Boston, 2 feet in New York, 1.5 feet in Philly, just like they projected. Instead, it moved 40 miles to the west. So they got it all inland. They can't be perfect. They were close.
Right.
And they were
You
right.
ever notice people get upset, Shep, when they say, gee, it's supposed to be a big storm and it didn't happen? I mean,
Well, it did happen.
Right?
It just didn't happen to you.
No, you certainly did. You should have seen it at 4 o'clock in the morning in Times Square, man.
Bob,
It's rough.
why were you, I don't know. I'm not even going to ask what you were doing up at 4 in the morning. But Gutfeld needs to get in here because, of course, that's always the best question.
Hey, Shep, I read the New York government offices were closed today. Did anybody notice?
Oh, gosh. Hey, Greg, you're a one-trick pony. I love ponies.
You do.
And he loves unicorns.
And he is one trick. There's no question about that.
All right, Bob.
What?
All right.
Last night, Shep, I saw that you said that New York couldn't handle 2 feet of snow, and I've never been here, I've been here for a couple of big storms, but you had me a little nervous.
Well, they were predicting, the National Weather Service was predicting 1 to 3 inches of snow every hour for 6 hours. Blizzard-like conditions, that means winds above 25, 30 miles an hour and gusts to 50. No matter how good the sanitation department is at getting rid of the snow, and they are very, very good at it, if it overruns you, it overruns you. Mother Nature can eventually beat you. It didn't happen this time. Very pleased.
They told me not to talk about politics, Shep, but you notice the plowing under de Blasio is in the poor areas and the rich people's area doesn't get plowed?
Oh
they say this every cycle.
Every
I don't even know. I hope it's clean in my neighborhood.
There won't be. It won't
All
be.
right, Bob, we're gonna cut you off, and we're gonna thank Shep. Thank you so much.
You betcha.
President Trump turning up the heat in the fight against radical Islamic terror. The Wall Street Journal reports the president has given the CIA secret new authority to conduct drone strikes against ISIS and other terrorists. The move is a departure from the Obama-era policy under which the Pentagon carried out the operations after the CIA identified targets. Retired four-star General Jack Keane explains the potential change in strategy.
I think the Trump administration is largely going back, not because one agency does it better than the other, but for this reason, because it's covert, it's classified, and it doesn't get discussed. When the military is conducting an operation, it's much more open, it's considerably more public. I think this is fine. This is about keeping it secret and doing it covertly and doing it in places we may not want to talk about.
I think this is fantastic. I agree spot on with General Jack Keane, but then again, I do love everything about him. Isn't that true, Dana?
It is true. You do. But the other thing is, he went on to say, and we didn't have to show it, that it doesn't mean that there wouldn't still be oversight from the Congress or involvement by the Pentagon. I mean, it doesn't mean that the CIA is now some rogue operation that is going to go out and do drone strikes. It just means that if the CIA has a target of opportunity, they can take it, and it doesn't have to be disclosed publicly. So,
smart strategy.
And it also probably, I think this also shows that there's probably a better relationship between the White House and the CIA than we have been led to believe in the last few weeks.
All right, fantastic. Well, you like this move?
And General Keane said exactly that in that interview later on. He said, look, here's the deal. When it's military, just by nature, it's going to be a lot more light shed on it. You're going to hear about it a lot more. The CIA would be able to keep it quieter. But remember, President Obama first started with the drone strikes, just unilateral drone strikes. Just, we're killing these people. And then later on, he got pushback. And remember, we said, hey, he's not going through proper channels. And then they changed the strategy, I guess, in the last year or so, to the drones will be used for intelligence gathering, and then they would send in the military to go clean up the mess.
Right.
So this is going back to the original Obama drone strike wipes out everything, which I believe they're bad guys, kill them.
Absolutely. I think this is very smart militarily and much in keeping with what one of the criticisms that candidate Trump was making about President Obama at the time was that he was telegraphing too much, telling the bad guys what we were going to do. And this allows, like he said, more covert operations and a more secretive nature, which I think is going to be more effective, plus the new drones, the new Reaper drone.
You know, I'm surprised because didn't Trump say he knew more than the generals? Why did he just control the drones himself? The other thing, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. The little criticism of Trump. You'll get that invitation. Don't worry about it. You know, this is all. I mean, you guys sat around this table and criticized Barack Obama every day about drone strikes. How inhumane it was. Blah 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 blah.
No, I liked it.
You did?
I did not criticize President Obama about that. I said that was the best thing.
I said that they should try to capture more so that you could gather intel.
Yeah, kill them all.
All right, I'll give you that.
Well, we're agreeing with you.
Okay, perfect.
No, I mean, but you know, it's all going to go this way, right? We're going to do electronic stuff. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Don't eat up the block on my killing segment, please, Greg.
No, I mean, it's interesting that as the bad guys get worse, I mean, it always seems that as we progress, evil gets even more evil. So ISIS is actually worse than a Nazi. I think, I believe that's the case. But as they become worse, our killing becomes oddly more humane. We will never repeat the world wars where we send waves upon waves of men to their deaths in horrible ways where they're blown to pieces. Now the droning is purely surgical. You know, it's like it's the equivalent of a prostate, surgery where we try to avoid the precious ligaments. We go after the people, we kill them, and we do our best not to hurt the innocent and people around us.
Collateral damage.
Yeah, the collateral damage. But I think it's important that we are more concerned with how to kill than what to call them. So that's a refreshing return to common sense. But it is interesting. This is the way it's going to be. It's going to be technology. It's going to be fewer men on the ground, and we are going to be eliminating them.
That's right. You know, by the way, ISIS is about to be blown out of Mosul, which means they're out of Iraq altogether now. And of course, you got to credit Trump on that one, right? I mean, Trump who did that, right? Yeah, of course we will. This is a show. It's on Fox.
I don't know.
It's a 5, and it has to be Trump.
Was President Obama responsible for bin Laden's killing?
What's that? Yeah, sure was.
Okay, so now we can credit Trump with this Mosul win.
You couldn't credit.
I'm just saying, Bobby.
Fine, that's fine. We'll credit with Mosul. First, ask him where it is, then we'll find out.
Oh boy. Honestly, I'm not going to let you ruin my nice mood about this with the CIA in charge and new drones and winter snow angel white. Perfect. All right, when we return.
Who the hell is that? Who's that? I'm sorry.
Come on, Eileen, by the Dexys.
Oh, okay,
that
good. Yes, very good.
Oh.
Now, here's someone who I can agree with. Senator Chuck Schumer and his fellow Democrats are threatening a government shutdown over the funding of President Trump's wall along the Mexican border. The outraged Senate Minority Leader is warning Republicans that this caucus will not vote for any spending bill that might reportedly strip funding for some government agencies to pay for the wall.
It will be inappropriate, in our judgment, to insist on the inclusion of such funding in a must-pass appropriations bill that is needed for the Republican majority in control of Congress to avert a government shutdown. It is truly a poison pill, and we would urge our colleagues not to allow the president to include this in a must-pass bill that avoids shutdown of the government.
The spending deadline is April 28th. If the bill doesn't pass, the government could shut down on April 29th. Eric, what do you think Trump says after he campaigned on the fact?
Go find it, Bob. It's $12 billion. I mean, that's $12 billion to $15 billion over the course. I mean, this is you want to talk about the 30, remember yesterday when we talked about the health care savings, $33.7 billion per year, and you called it a drop in the bucket. So
you called it a drop.
This is a third of a drop in the bucket. So it's like, I think it's like 0.00045%. We spent $3.5 trillion.
He said that they were going to pay for it. So what does he say?
They'll find somewhere else, Bob. I mean, $12 billion is in this, Dana, I defer to Dana. Can they find $12 billion easily?
In a scheme of things, could you find $12 billion? Well, especially if the rumors are true that they're going to axe even more people from EPA. Kidding, but no, really, that's possible.
Yeah.
What's this wall?
But I think that the idea of a government shutdown is terrible, and I've always felt that way. And I also think, you remember that Chuck Schumer and other Democrats said that when the Republicans tried this a few years ago, that it would hurt people who are dependent on government services. So do the Democrats no longer believe that shutting down the government would hurt people who depend on government services? And instead, why don't they try to, like, if they can't figure out a way to stop that funding from being in the bill, then figure out a way to stop it from actually being appropriated in the budget.
But, you know, both parties are hypocritical on this. They use it every time that someone comes up for something. And once in a while ends up in a government shutdown, usually by Republicans. Greg.
Yes, I believe that Schumer is an obstructionist. We're talking about thousands of shovel-ready jobs, actual shovel-ready jobs. And I thought as a Democrat, he would want to create more jobs. Building a wall will create more jobs. Therefore, he is a communist, and he should be thrown in jail forever.
Yay! Winning speech and debate. Good job.
Now, Kimberly, I take it it doesn't bother you that we're going to spend U.S. tax dollars on this wall.
I want the wall.
I love it. Bob cares.
Bob cares.
About our tax dollars.
And by the way, I think it's a great point. Why not have the jobs? Why not put this forward? It will help. I think it is necessary because clearly what we've been doing in the past has not been working. This is going to help in terms of national security, public safety. It's going to help in terms of the economy. It's a win-win situation. People are just looking to find fault with Trump, and I agree, like, Schumer's an obstructionist. He is the head of the failed state known as the Democratic Party. So if he wants to try and do this for Supreme Court justice hearings. By the way, Chuck Schumer responsible for the longest presidential transition in history, blocking President Trump. He's just a bad actor. This is the bottom line. He's an ineffective
blocking
leader.
a Supreme Court nominee for a year.
No,
that doesn't matter.
Okay, well, let me tell you something. That I think they brought up Merrick Garland, who, you know, nothing against him, but they brought that up at the last minute, which was very different in terms of President Obama's term, and that's not going to work.
It was a year.
The next president, they should have made sure that Hillary Clinton got elected and took the White House, because then they wouldn't be crying about it.
Let me just ask you this: this wall is so important. I drove through the Lincoln Tunnel here on Saturday for an hour and a half. I sat in that wreck. There's a lot of places that need to be fixed in this country. Seriously, need to be fixed. There's got to be serious, and that's
infrastructure jobs, and he's going to do that too.
Which will be a tough pay for it. That is going to be the tough hurdle, not this $12 billion for the wall that Mexico is going to end up paying for anyway, but the $1 trillion. I mean, they're going to have to come up with a way to find some pay-fors and get a public-private partnership going on where companies get involved.
But you're still going to need cash flow, right, on the wall? Seriously, I mean, you can spend $13 billion, and then you're up against.
Bob, do you think the wall is built in a year? It's probably going to take 2-3 years. So you're talking a couple of $1 billion. Yeah, they'll figure out a way to appropriate some money and get Mexico to pay them back for it. It'll happen. It'll happen.
Okay. I'm sure.
Say it nicely, please.
I will. I was just saying, if you just rent it from the Chinese, we could get it all done in one time. One more thing is up next.
All right, it's one more thing. I go first, I guess. I hate these people. You know who I hate? I hate people who tweet pictures of beaches on rainy or snowy days. Do I send pictures of smooth roads to places where there are earthquakes? This makes no sense. Everybody's on the West Coast tweeting pictures of sunsets and beaches. Do I tweet pictures of jobs to the unemployed? I would never do that. Do I tweet a picture of love to Rosie O'Donnell? I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do that.
All right.
Matt just sent me this. So when I asked Shepard how's the weather in Palm Beach, Matt sent me.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
There you go. I told you. Don't you hate it? All right. Dana Perino.
All right, so some news to announce. You can now download this show as a podcast while you're on the go. The 5 podcast is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play, and more. And guess what? It's free. Wow. Worth every penny.
Yay!
If you go to foxnewspodcast.com, you can get more information. But this way, if you're on the go, you could listen to it on your commute or the next day so you don't miss an episode of The 5.
You know how good.
And I also have a book to promote. This is a new book called The Shroud it's The Shroud Conspiracy, excuse me. It is out today. It is by John Hybush. He is a much accomplished man. He is currently the executive director of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. I have not had a chance to read this yet, but Greg has, and Greg's a tough critic, and he liked it.
Well, you know what I said? I said that I hate it when people give me books because they're usually bad writers. He's an amazing writer. He's an incredible writer.
That is high praise.
And I was like going, oh, man, now I have to read the book.
I look forward to reading it, and I hope everyone takes a look at it.
I didn't care, and I'm calling it Ryan Care because I don't think Donald Trump should put his name on this. Because
but it's Trump Care.
No, it's not. It came from Paul Ryan's bill that they're trying to push.
So you're saying the president really isn't the president?
No, I'm saying he should stop right now and send this bill back for fixing, especially for this reason. Under this bill, and I'm not sure we even realize it, 2 categories. If you're 50 to 64 years, this is in 2026, 50 to 64 years old, and now these 2 groups in over 65, these are 2 of Trump's highest voter total groups. Check this out. If you make $26,500 or less, under Obamacare in 2026, you would be paying $1,700 per year. Under Ryan Care, you're going to end up paying $14,600. You're only making $26,000. You're going to pay more than 50% of your income to have care under this plan. So that's why the CBO numbers show 52 million people off, because it's too expensive for older people and they'll drop off the rolls. And that's why.
Okay, you got to explain the math.
Fix this.
I have 106%.
Where?
53 and 53.
No.
Okay.
53% of 54 to 64-year-olds voted for Trump.
And 53%.
These are his 2 highest categories.
I think Paul Ryan is on Martha's show tonight at 7.
Yes.
Nice plug.
So you got to check out the 7 p.m. Eastern. Dana, I'm going to follow in your footsteps and actually do some recommendations in terms of reading. Wall Street Journal, great publication. Michael Bender has a fantastic article.
Puts that out.
Steve Bannon, The Making of an Economic Nationalist. Read this article and you get a lot of insight into his political mind and his background and where he came from, and it's very fascinating. Last thing is there's a great video about self-defense. This woman, Kelly Herron, who took a self-defense class right here and fought off her attacker, saved her life, and locked him in the bathroom.